One of the most common questions people ask when they're thinking about starting a business is, when should I start telling people about my idea? And some people tell everyone immediately: friends and family and coworkers and social media. Others, well, they keep it a secret for years, maybe working it over and over and over in their head. Both approaches can create problems because talking about an idea too early can distort it, but waiting too long can keep you from getting the feedback you actually need to get started. So in this episode, we're going to talk about my process, why I stay quiet at first, when it actually makes sense to start sharing the ideas, and how to talk about it once you do. And by the end of this video, you'll have a simple framework for my 30-day pressure test: who to tell, when to tell them, and what answers to have ready. So you're actually moving the idea forward instead of just playing it over and over in your head. Hi, I'm Matt. I've spent over 25 years building companies as a serial entrepreneur and helping small business owners with their day-to-day operational challenges. At Beyond BST, we help entrepreneurs move from idea to first dollar and beyond. Welcome to the channel. Let me know how I can help. Hey, before I jump in, I'd like to hear your experiences with sharing new ideas for a product, a service, or maybe a new business. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. New business ideas are exciting, and excitement naturally makes people want to share. But sometimes talking about an idea too early can create quite a few problems. First, premature validation. Because when you tell friends, most of them will usually say something nice, like, "Oh, that sounds great." But they're usually reacting to you, not the business idea. I mean, they like you. They're your friends. They want to be supportive. They don't want to discourage you. But encouragement isn't the same as useful feedback. The second problem is the wrong audience. Friends and family may tend to judge an idea based on their own fears or preferences or experiences. And most of the time, they're probably not your ideal customer. So the feedback you get may not actually move your ideas forward. The third problem is a psychological trap. A lot of new entrepreneurs fall into this. Talking about a business idea can feel like you're actually making progress. You can have long conversations, you can explain it to people, you can debate it, but none of that actually builds the business. You can talk about an idea for months without taking a single real step forward. All of that is why when I get to a new idea, I go quiet, very quiet. In a previous episode, I talked about how I pressure test new business ideas for about 30 days before I start to share with others. And if you missed that video, I'll put the link in the description because it explains this process in great detail. And during that time, I'm testing things like the problem it solves, the ideal customer, the economics, the risk, and whether I actually want to spend the next several years working on this. Because very early on, those first 30 days, you really don't need opinions, but you need some clarity. Once the pressure test is over, it's usually okay to start letting a few people into the conversation. But before you do, you should be able to explain a few things clearly. Not a full business plan, because most people don't want to read that anyways. That's something you build for yourself. But you should have enough thought behind the idea that it's obvious you've done more than just daydream about it for a month or two. One thing that helps is being able to explain the business in just a few short sentences. What I do is answer these three questions. What problem does it solve? Who is it for? And what does the business actually do? If you can answer that, you'll be all set. For example, instead of saying, I'm thinking about starting a house sitting business, you might say something a little more specific, like, I'm working on a service for business travelers and snowbirds that combines remote sensors with periodic in-person inspections so people know that their property is safe while they're away. That's a lot clearer. And then someone that you're talking to will understand the idea right away. And it's obvious you've put in the time and energy on this one. You should also be ready for a few natural questions. So prepare the answers ahead of time so you know what you're talking about. People, friends, family will usually ask things like, is this a side hustle or a full-time business? How much money is it going to take to start? And who is the customer? You don't need perfect answers for all the questions, but you should have thought about them and written them down. And one of the most helpful things you can say is something like, when you're talking to people. Say something like, I've worked through a lot of the details already, but I'm still looking for customer feedback to refine the direction. That signals that the idea is real, but it's still evolving, which is exactly where most businesses start. Once the idea survives the pressure test, you can start letting a few more people into the conversation. But it helps to expand that circle in a very deliberate order because different people play very different roles in the early stages of a business. The first conversations are usually with your spouse, immediate family, or close friends. And before you start talking broadly about a new business idea, it's usually smart to talk with the people who will be most affected by your involvement. Because starting a business can change a lot. It can change things like your free time, your financial risk, stress level, and sometimes your overall lifestyle. That conversation isn't about asking permission per se. It's about sharing what you're working on and making sure you're all in alignment. And after that, you can start talking with potential customers. And this is where the conversation changes again, because you're not pitching, you're just trying to learn. One way to start that conversation is to say something like this. I've been working on a new business idea for the past month or so, and I'm hoping for honest feedback. What do you say? Would you be open to giving me that? I think most people would either very easily say yes or, politely decline. And honestly, both answers are helpful because the goal here isn't approval, it's insight. We want to learn from their feedback. And then once the idea starts taking shape, it can be helpful to talk with experienced business owners or advisors, people who understand things like pricing and operations and structure and risk. They can help you see the blind spots that you might miss on your own. And finally, once you understand the problem inside and out, the solution, the customer, and all the value you're going to deliver, that's when you can start to take the idea public. We're talking websites and social media and maybe your initial marketing. Remember, we're not after perfection. We just want clarity when we start the business. Years ago, I think it was, 2008 or so, I had an idea for a shop from home grocery service. My idea was pretty simple. People could email or fax a shopping list, and I would subcontract stay-at-home moms to pick up and deliver the groceries. I had spent maybe a week or so, just early stages, thinking about it, just enough to kind of have a framework in my head. And then I made a mistake. I mentioned the idea at a holiday family gathering. I really hadn't even talked to my wife about it yet. And the reaction in the room was not great. People started just picking the whole idea apart. They were telling me why it wouldn't work. And my wife was kind of upset that I hadn't told her about it first. The idea basically just got shut down right on the spot. What's funny is that, a few years later, another company built almost that exact same model, but even better. I think you probably heard of them. Instacart. Now, the point of the story is not that someone stole my idea. The real lesson is something else. And at the moment, the people in the room, they just weren't my ideal customer. So in hindsight, I hadn't even figured out who my ideal customer was yet. So the people giving feedback were evaluating their idea through their own experience. And that experience had nothing to do with the business. Since I hadn't worked through my 30-day pressure test, I didn't have answers to their questions. And I couldn't respond to their objections in a positive way. That experience really taught me something important. Early ideas need structure before they need opinions. And that structure is exactly what the 30-day pressure test is designed to build. Have you had a similar experience? Drop a comment below and let me know what it's all about. So when can you finally tell people about your idea? Not immediately, but also not years later. Usually the right time is after the idea has survived some kind of quiet but intense testing, after you understand the problem you're trying to solve, and once you're ready to start getting feedback from the people who might actually become your customers. If you're still pre-revenue, the goal isn't just to talk about the idea. The goal is to build clarity around it. And sometimes the best thing a new business idea can get is a little quiet time to grow. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, like, subscribe, and drop a comment or send me an email. That's where I look for future topics. Now, take a breath. You've got this. All right, what's next?